going to try to get underway. Jack, do you have an agenda and everything? Where it happened to the...
We're sharing one back
We're good.
there.
Oh, you are? All right.
What was the decision about Charlie?
Charlie could not come, and he was hoping perhaps we could set up, but there's no way to set up a phone link here for him.
So am I allowed to do it or not?
Well, if you want to, I just don't know how it will work, but if you want to do that, that is good.
Didn't Charlie change his email too?
Yes, he did. It's Charles Paulk, C. Paulk, and it's NaCCRA, and I just got it.
At NaCCRA.com.
Oh, Charlie, you're in the meeting.
Yes, sir.
You're in the meeting.
I'm in the meeting. Great.
Hi, Charlie. All right, Charlie, it's good to hear your wonderful
Hey,
voice.
I wish I was out there with all of you folks.
Well, we wish you were here, and we're just going to go around the table so everybody, you'll hear their nice voices. So we'll start with Walt Boyer.
Walt Boyer is here.
Jennifer Young, brand new, you won't recognize my name.
She's from Tyler, Texas.
Joe Walton
I
here.
do recognize your name.
Okay, you recognize Jennifer's name.
But
Okay.
you don't recognize her husband, are you, I don't know if you're married or not, but
Significant other.
Precious darling.
her precious
Her
darling
precious
Jack
darling, I
Shale.
like that.
He's back here.
And that's Jack. Okay. Did you say? good-
Joe Walton here. Marlene Varner.
Jack Cumming.
Dan Seeger. Ron Herring.
Ruth Walsh.
Bob Nicholson.
And then we have several people sitting in the rear, or behind us.
Kate, where am I, Charlie? Beth, hi. Hi, Charlie.
Ah,
And there's Jack, this precious darling of Jennifer. And we welcome everybody here tonight. It's been an adventure in Dallas, Texas, which is the kindest way I can say what we've been through since we got here yesterday afternoon. And so we're delighted to have everybody here and delighted to have a place to meet, because there was that moment when we didn't know where we were going to hang our hats, probably outside. Anyway, Charlie, how are you doing?
I'm probably better than I deserve. But I wish I was doing a little better.
Well, just you got to take good care of yourself one day at a time. All right, so just in order, we're just going to get underway here, and we're going to call the meeting to order. I know the time is short, so we're going to do some skirting around a little bit. So I just wanted to start us out by just mentioning that NaCCRA is indeed blessed to have passionate and committed members and volunteer leaders. This passion and this selflessness has allowed our organization to continue to grow and to continue to flourish. And I hope you all are as overwhelmed as I am with the positive strides we have made in the past few years. Witness the dedication we have toward increasing membership throughout our CCRC world, both the individual as well as community and statewide. We have dared to dream and to innovate, and as our President-elect Ron Herring has noted, to look outside of the box for effective ways for us to operate, and we are making strides. We have a new set of amended bylaws that encourage our unity, and we're committed to a second government structure or governance structure that will make NaCCRA even more effective and efficient in reaching the goals of our evolving strategic plan. We're taking an in-depth look at the financial soundness of CCRCs and proposing legislation that will keep us all fiscally sound while proceeding and protecting our residents by a vehicle known as Residents' Bill of Rights. Massachusetts just passed the Residents' Bill of Rights, and I know other states are in the process. So these are all very positive things, and it's being done on a state level rather than the federal, which is probably a good thing. Witness what's been happening on the federal level. So we're dedicated to the vision of NaCCRA, and it's imperative that we stand as one in our efforts to reach our goals. We all must work together, and we all do work together. With that said, I need to add that strong ideas, and opinions can also become negative if they're not channeled properly. And at the end of each day, each one of us as NaCCRA members and board leaders must be here to help NaCCRA attain its mission and beyond. Just think, right now, Game 3 of the World Series is happening. All of the teams are well trained, they're all skilled and committed to winning the World Series, and someone will win. And we all are committed to NaCCRA and winning our game, and we will win with your help, your cooperation, and your cheerleading. So I ask that each one of us remember that we are unpaid volunteers with a commitment to our team. Though we all know that over the course of the last year, some topics have become very heated. And that's not very productive sometimes, and yet we have pulled together very, very beautifully, and I'm proud of us all. We must stand together, and NaCCRA will survive, and NaCCRA will thrive. And I really look forward to this meeting, although it's going to be a little bit interesting, as we use a tool, and I've asked everybody to use this tool called Check Your Bags at the luggage, at the door, so that each of us can participate and engage in the proceedings for and with NaCCRA, focusing only on doing our mission, to make NaCCRA the very best that it can be. And I thank you for being a team player and for being so very, very faithful to us. And before I go any further, I know most of you all have met, we met at the dinner table, but everybody knows Jennifer Young, who's from Tyler, Texas. You want to say just a hey or a...
Hello, thank you
Yeah.
for permitting me to sit in. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And Jack, your darling.
Thank you, Jennifer, for letting me come along. And all these good people here, too.
Great.
I appreciate you, really.
And Beth High and George from Virginia. My good friend and scout and aide, Kate Waterman. And Catherine is going to be with us tonight, but she came in late. So she begged forgiveness and said she would see us in the morning at our meeting. But Catherine is a professor of law at Dickerson School of Law at Penn State University. And she's a really good friend of ours and a consultant for us. And so anybody else, we all know Ron, who made it through his surgery without a problem. We think. So
Where is Jack Matheson?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Well,
I know, he called and I told him where the meeting was going to be and what time it was going to be. And he didn't come.
Presbyterian ministers aren't too good at directions.
You want me to go check at the desk?
Yeah, if you would.
And let them know?
Because I told him we were going to be
What
on
about Bob and Esther?
I haven't seen or heard from them since they
They
got in. I knew
were-
they were getting in late this afternoon and they were going to have dinner and then they were going to, Bob
Smith.
Smith and Esther, his bride.
And what about
Other
Ellen
one
Handler?
was-
Is she in?
Haven't seen or heard from Ellen. Do you have any?
She was dependent on Marlene, so if,
She's not at my hotel. She
Oh.
did not register at my hotel. So I don't know what happened to her.
yeah, well, that's as big a mystery as the Walt and Marlene mystery at dinner,
Reverend Jack, M-A-T-H.
which was a considerable mystery, I might add.
Okay, so we have a few of our troops missing, but
Jack Matheson. Jack Matheson and
Jack
Bob-
Matheson,
Bob
and he
Smith.
has he has a couple with them whose name I did not catch, but he has a couple with them.
Okay.
And I told him we were going to be up here on the second floor. Thank you. So, reports from our committee chairs have been received. I did not duplicate them because I didn't know what this day was going to be. So with your permission, we will duplicate them and send them to everybody after the fact. So.
I thought we were supposed to send them by email.
You did, but Mrs. Walsh had not had time to even draw a deep breath. And so I could not duplicate them, and I'll duplicate them.
Why do we need them duplicated if we already all got them?
Yeah, we all,
Everybody got them?
no, we did we get every one of them?
I don't know, I don't
I
send
don't think we
mine.
got, no, we didn't,
No.
I think we all sent them in, but I
You
don't think
sent
we all
them?
got
I
them.
sent mine to
They're
everybody.
not distributed yet.
Oh, you did?
But they could be distributed by email.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
That could be a
That
thing.
would be better than more paper.
I can send them to me and I'll attach
I
them to
have
the
them here.
minutes.
So I would
Okay.
really appreciate that.
Sure, I'll attach them to the minutes.
All right. It's just been, I won't tell you,
I just want the velvet.
Gangbusters.
yes. So anyway, but we have Marlene sent hers in from Lifeline. Marlene is the editor-in-chief, Jennifer, of our newsletter, and she does a splendid job.
Thank you.
Right.
You know Bob Nicholson, who's our vice president for membership, who does a splendid job. Walt Boyer, and now you're the new president of Virginia?
North Carolina.
North Carolina, sorry, I was to bite my tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's also the chairman of our Financial Soundness Committee, and you want to say anything at all?
Well, I think I was nominated out of desperation to be the president of
Oh, yeah?
North Carolina, but in any case, that's where I am at the
Very
moment.
great.
Yes.
So, and the other thing is that Ron Herring, who's our president-elect, has produced a magnificent book, and I see you have it with you. I could not bring it because it was so heavy to mail. Would you just show
Yeah.
Jennifer? I guess you'll show it off. This, and there's,
And it's got
Ron, can you speak
all
to
kinds
that
of
just
stuff
for a
in the back
minute?
about,
It's got our history, it has everything.
and
A couple of comments about the manual quickly. First of all, it's a work in progress. When you try to do a board manual for an organization, if you assume that you're going to get it total, complete, and correct the first time out, you are naive. So what you see is a first effort at that. There are several places in the manual, when you go through it, have time to go through it, where there will be a sheet of paper and where it will identify that that document behind that paper needs work. And the best example I can give you is the organizational chart of NaCCRA. So by changing the bylaws, you changed a lot of other things, and so you have to do a new organizational chart. So that's not, so there is some unfinished work, and it's identified in the manual. A couple of other things that came under some fairly heavy conversation and trying to put it together were two pieces. One, whether to do additional tabs. In other words, there might be 3 or 4 documents in a particular section, and you could have 1, 2, 3, 4 tab. The other thing you could do is you could have stapled documents that were more multi-page together. And the conclusion was that that would be not helpful. That when you wanted to put things in or take things out or put changes in, and it would get difficult. Now, you have the freedom to work with your own manual. If you want to do something with it, it'll make it easier for you to use. But remember, when you're finished with the manual, make sure that it gets passed to the person who takes your seat on the board, so we don't have to keep generating more manuals, we just send them around. So those are, some of the material has been created, some of the material has been taken from other documents, a number of them from Florida and from partners. And so what we did was, when I went through it, and I took out what applied only to partners and then other content. And then the first draft I sent to Joe and Jack, and they did a review of the manual. And then we took it from there. But remember, it is a work in progress. And if you want a good board manual, you have to spend some time taking opportunities to make suggestions for change or addition.
But it's a true work of art, and the fact that in there are our early papers, articles of incorporation, our early bylaws, so that everybody has a chance to see. Because our first bylaws were passed, when, Charlie, were our first bylaws? 1999, I guess it was. Is he still there?
I don't know, are you still there, Charlie?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
our first bylaws were 1999.
maybe 2000. I think when they started up in 1997, they didn't have any bylaws,
Yeah,
and until Milt Brummer was elected, they didn't work on them. And he was elected in 99, and he started working on them. I'm not sure he finished them that year or the next year.
yeah, so all of that information is in there. Thank you, Charlie. So it's really a wonderful, when you don't have anything to do, I mean, you sit by the fireplace and just go through it, because it really is excellent. And we thank you, Ron. It's a lot of work.
Yeah,
You know.
there's one thing that everybody needs to understand, that William Blanton, that was an attorney just outside of Baltimore, was the NaCCRA attorney for about 7 years. In fact, he was still the attorney when I took office, but he died my second year in office, and unfortunately, his wife would not let us have any of his papers.
Oh, my.
But he's the guy that actually drew up the articles of incorporation, not Harry, that a lot of people won't give credit for, Harry Groves.
Yeah.
Harry Groves was a very active member in the development of NaCCRA, but William Blanton was the attorney. And he was a private attorney in the Baltimore area, and he gave us 40 hours a year for free, and then over that, it was at a reduced rate.
Thank you. I didn't realize that either. Oh, that's very great, and we really appreciate that. So anyway, but there's just a ton of wonderful information in there. The other thing that Ron put in were job descriptions, the nominating committee structure, and according to our new bylaws, the nominating committee is consisting of the presidents of the state associations. And our new chairman is Milt Birdsall. And
From
he's
Florida.
yeah. So and actually, Milt could not be here tonight, but he wondered about possibilities of people for the board. We know we have a 3-year rotation for members, so we're going to be looking to replace three people on the board coming up in April at our annual meeting. So if you have names of people who are highly qualified and skilled, what we're looking at is our attorney, a CPA, a person who is knowledgeable about grant writing. And Jack, you think of any other possible or other additional kinds of skills we need?
People who know accountancy.
Accountancy.
I've got heartburn about this public relation that Marlene is not doing now. And Judy Moss, we need to get our brand, our image, our news out to media,
Right.
to communities, to, I mean, where you, and I think somebody with a, and as we move forward in whatever form we work with Leading Age, we need to have a kind of a media conscious person that picks up a story that Joe told about a neighbor helping a neighbor in independent living, or somebody does this, and get those stories into Leading Age and get it in their magazine so that our identity is highlighted in their media. But to do that, you've got to have somebody that understands media, that understands writing, that understands, like Marlene does so well, knows for stories, and can, you know, take something that Walt's doing and the financial soundness and say, here's an example of the difference NaCCRA made in XYZ, and get that story out. Because that's been a great vacuum, and that's been a kind of a disappointment to me, not about Judy per se, but about that job. That, so I mean, I think accounting and counting the money, I keep bringing that up, counting the money, God, I hope that works out. You know, counting the money and that sort of thing is in lawyers. But we've got to get the word out about NaCCRA.
Right, and that's very important.
And we need somebody that, I mean, I'm the seat of the pants guy, but you know, there are probably people that actually have a skill set that can do that.
So, and that's, so another person. Jack, that's something you do, isn't it? Public relations?
Yes.
We'll buy you 2 drinks.
Careful what you say.
Yeah, but you know, but there are wonderful people out there. These are the kinds of things that we need, and to either refer to names to Ron or to Bill, so we can get those and get the nominating committee working.
We need to be sure that Milton knows that North Carolina has a new president,
Yes,
since he has to be on that committee.
yes, he does.
We're gonna,
Well, we're not, yeah. I'm gonna leave that to Ron and his group.
okay. Are we gonna have state reports this meeting?
I don't think we're gonna have time. We'll
Okay.
see how we do.
All
But
right.
it's been wild. I'm not gonna say anything further. I would like you to just briefly talk about membership, just for a minute, please, and what you have in your hand and what we're gonna do.
Okay, I need everybody to raise their right hand and promise to take this packet that I'm now going to hand you and contact at least one person at this leading age meeting, whether it's the coffee shop or the men's room or the women's room or the booth or the workshop or the lunch, and say, this is your invitation to become a part of NaCCRA. If you are a provider, if you are a resident, and here is a self-addressed envelope that I'm big on self-addressed envelopes that have money in them. Here is something that you can use, and if you want to save 44, whatever postage
Could it
is,
be 49 cents?
49 cents, you can deliver it to booth 3345 in the exhibit hall, and we will receive it there.
I did see a lady today, remember the one from Chicago?
Yeah, right.
That we got last, she said, I'm coming down.
There you go.
And she's going to re-up, and she has 5 or 6 friends who said they would like to re-up also.
Now, let me give one to,
Our, what's her, Ron, no, what's our
what's our booth number?
yeah.
3345, is that, or are you just making that up?
I didn't bring it down.
Okay, that's 1 minute. Now I'm for 2 minutes.
All right, I'll get you the number of our booth.
All right. What do you all tell people, because that's where you can return. Each of you has, and I've told you, Walton, I scrounged the folder, and I scrounged the paper, and I scrounged the printing, but I did have to pay for the labels. There are 2 things in here. On the left side is your personal commitment. It's entitled, My Personal Consideration of Names in My Family, My Community, Friends and Other Places to Join NaCCRA. And here is a sample letter of invitation. And here are some, I didn't want to buy the envelopes, but here's some self-addressed things you can put on the envelope. Or you can go to the copy machine at your community and you can print out this on an Avery label, so you've got your label. So that's, and we've all made promises that we're going to do that. And here's what a self-addressed envelope looks like in case any of you have a question. Think that's okay? On this side is the really critical issue we have of 199 persons who are considered active members but who have not renewed their NaCCRA membership. That's more than I can personally handle, so I have put for you here the people in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia, California who have not renewed, and when's the last time they renewed, and asking you to follow up. And asking you to follow up in a way that's appropriate for you and for them. I have put in the folder here 4 follow-up approaches. One is a letter that Ruth and I prepared, for example, to Fraser Meadows since they were flooded out. And you don't want to ignore a life situation of somebody who, like Al LeBlanc, whose car was totally trashed in the parking garage when the garage filled with water.
And that goes out almost as soon as I get home.
That's right. The other is a, it's like Adam said to you, there must be another leaf here somewhere. The other is a personal note from Bob Nicholson to the residents in Mirabella. I've already gotten 5 renewals based on this Deafness Pros. And this is not for you to copy this. This is just say, here's a Fraser Meadow idea, here's a Mirabella idea, and then we have a general letter that says that our board gathering in Dallas right now for a spring meeting in connection with Leading Age, and we carefully reviewed our list. We write to tell you of our appreciation for your participation as a NaCCRA member. We want to keep you in our circle of caring, serving, advocating members, and most sincerely invite you and encourage you to renew that membership. And that's another letter that you can use. So here are 4 different approaches that you can use. So that's, and then Ron, Dan, and Ruth have, and Bob, the actual total list of the 199 people. And this is serious, friends. And no one of us can do this, but we can, between the gifted editor and the monarch of CCRCs in North Carolina, you can follow up. The other thing is, on yellow is your membership report, and it's the pithy Presbyterian points for you to ponder that tells you as of October 2nd, we have 1,162 members, unpaid members 199, 1,391 active members as of September 30. And the one thing that is in here that we've never dealt with, when is a member dropped? Partners, they just keep them. And they said, if you, I mean, they work for us, but this body has to say, when do we say that so-and-so has been a member since, I mean, we haven't heard from them for 3 years. Those people we're still sending Lifeline to. So the point that for you to look at is the question, here's what we do. If you want to know, how do we deal with these people already? And we send 2 invoices, and here's what we do. And I put in your folder the invoice that we send to them, and but we've got to tell our employee,
Just partners in management.
partners, how do we proceed with the member that has passed their expiration date without paying for the following year? And so here's a recommendation. I mean, one of the problems here, we need to sharpen for the treasurer or the secretary. Here is a decision, write it down.
Right. Let me ask a question. Do we get the bills back if the person has personally expired, aside from his membership?
I would guess so. I don't know
We
that.
would know if they died.
I would guess so, because they would say return.
So I hope Bennett would pull out the ones that are deceased.
Well, no, we don't, as far as I know, we don't have any deceased people here.
Really?
No, in a few cases, we found that you don't get that information.
Yeah.
And one way we work it in North Carolina is to have a representative at NaCCRA who's responsible for keeping track of those kind of things. But at the national level, you don't have that. So
What
you
we
may not-
used to do is after the second letter went out, on the 3rd issue of Lifeline, I had a red stamp. This is your final issue, please renew now. And I sent that stamp and the ink pad and extra ink to Bennett. And after that, they didn't get any more Lifelines. And I would think that that's something we ought to reinstate. There's no reason to keep sending these people Lifelines if they're not members. We can't afford that.
Okay.
There's a motion.
All right, let's, I'm going to convert, I love to convert Marlene. I'm going to convert Marlene into a motion that, after how much time?
After the second notice of renewal,
After
their
this-
next issue of Lifeline was stamped.
Okay, let's do that. The motion is that after the second issue.
We have it, they put it in writing, it's right over there.
Okay.
There's a motion.
President Ruth has
There we
made this
go.
wonderful thing, so that you will write your motion there.
But let's don't, I mean, we know what it's about. Let's get on with it. After the second issue of Lifeline, second notice, we put a red stamp on it. But then the question is, and we have here a sample, God, I've got so many samples.
We just gotta hurry. I'm sorry to do this to you.
I'm hurrying,
I know.
but if we don't do this, there's a sample letter that says, a draft only, it says, we're gonna drop you. So that I would think that we would then move that this letter be sent out after the last lifeline is sent out.
And this
I'm having trouble knowing what the motion is.
Okay, the motion is that after 2 notices are sent out by partners, a red stamp, that Marlene will tell you what should be on the red stamp, will be stamped, this is your last issue of Lifeline, which was the practice before we converted to the partners thing. So that's one little thing, but to finalize it, a draft of a letter that says, we really miss you, we really want you, and
it asks you once more,
Yeah.
here's a copy of your membership dues invoice for your convenience. Please renew it, and if you choose, mail it back to us so that we can continue to serve you.
So this third invoice will go with the Lifeline?
Yeah.
no.
No, with this letter.
No, it's the two invoices go out.
Right.
After 2 invoices go out, the next Lifeline has a stamp. This is your last issue.
Right.
Please renew. This is your last issue. Then after that goes out, then we have a final letter.
Okay.
And if we do that, that will direct partners what to do. But if you're curious about what we do now, I put down what we do now and put a sample of the invoice, so there would be total transparency in the membership stuff.
And it's all in your packet. And the other thing is with postage going up, as it is going to go the first of the new year, you know, it would behoove us to try to get these letters out and get renewals immediately.
End of report.
Thank you. And the motion is coming, and we need somebody to second it ultimately.
Are we dependent upon the mail to get each copy to the member, or are we, in some cases, sending them bulk and asking someone in the community
And
to
then Marlene, you'll
distribute
have to, are they sent bulk at all? Or
We have to ask
individual?
how Bennett's doing it. I did when I was doing it.
I got a bulk shipment the other day of about 15, and then the chair of our resident council got a package. So there's 30 copies to be distributed in Seaguard. And
Well, that's all you gotta do is get 15 new members and give them out.
well,
That should be 10, is it 10 or 15 for the community membership? And you're getting the extra ones as an officer for your own recruitment purposes.
okay.
And I
Yeah.
periodically have asked, how many do you want? And I send that to Bennett.
Yeah.
So we probably need to review that
And
periodically as well.
I've been putting them in the box with a message to, you know, here's a sample, we hope you enjoy us. And then the next day, the chair of the residence committee goes around and puts another one in the same box, so we need to be a little bit more
Our
coordinated.
communication, I gotta
May I
check.
read the motion and then have we'll have someone second
Read it.
it? I'll read what I have. so
All right,
that
you check
can-
her, check,
Oh, you've written it. Well, here's what I have. Marlene moved that if no response is received after a second invoice has been sent, a red stamp will be put on the following issue of Lifeline indicating that this is the last issue they will receive, after which a third invoice will be sent. If there is still no response, the member will be dropped.
No, after the, read that part again.
well, read Marlene, read your motion,
Yeah, go ahead.
please.
After a second notice of renewal and non-payment, stamp next issue of Lifeline, final issue, please renew now, with a red stamp. The stamp already exists and was forwarded to Bennett when partners assumed the mailing of Lifeline. Final cancellation letter will follow.
Yeah, I like your wording better, Dan.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Would you read it?
So
Sure.
read it again.
Marlene moved that if no response is received after a second invoice has been sent, a red stamp will be put on the following issue of Lifeline indicating that this is the last issue they will receive, after which a third invoice will be sent. If there is still no response, the member will be dropped.
I think after which a final letter of appeal to renew.
That's the invoice.
A final letter of appeal
Okay.
to renew.
After which a
with
final
the
letter to
final
renew.
invoice
Right.
will be sent out.
After which a,
Final letter
good, I
urging
understand.
renewal with,
Final letter urging renewal will be sent. Do we have to say an invoice also? I mean, that's sort of,
no, that's fine,
yeah.
because
A- a
the
fi-
letter.
After which a final letter urging renewal will be sent. If there is still no response, the member will be dropped.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, and is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
And I think we need to perhaps add, they will be dropped and no further lifelines will be mailed.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that too,
Yeah.
because what's happening is they're dropped
Right.
and then he's to keep getting lifelines.
If the word spreads, no one will renew.
Yeah. And is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second from Bob. Is there any other discussion? So all in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's
In
passed.
fact, all in favor, follow up with those assignments we've given you,
Yeah.
so we don't have to send the thing out.
Keep doing it, yeah.
I have a question, as a follow-up now to the motions having been adopted. What we're doing now is instructing partners how we want them to behave in their tasks,
Right.
right? Now, my question is, when we contracted with partners, and the contract is in your manual, how much did we contract for? In other words, is it clear that we are to give partners instructions on issues like this? Or the alternative is, we just turn it over to partners and let them make the business judgment about how to do it. There's two ways to handle this. So my question is, have we in the past given them all the instructions to handle all the mailings, which we're now doing? Have we given that to them? And do they agree to accept that responsibility? I'm not clear about that.
My reading of the agreement, that was that they were going to be making proposals on matters like this, and that we would then be allowed to, typically we would acquiesce in the proposal, but that the initiative was going to come from partners. And that's sort of the character of the agreement. And that was the proposal that was made.
Yeah, Marlene's saying though that in the transition, she said, this is how we're doing it, if you're gonna do it, this is the way we want you to do it. That was not a, Marlene is not,
Pardon me.
Yeah.
He's saying, he's bringing up a good point. Are we micromanagers or are we not micromanagers?
That's another way of saying it, yeah.
And I think you're very appropriate to bring that up. I don't like being a micromanager, but in this case, I think we can send them the motion, and if they don't like it, they can come back with
sure.
a proposal.
To put all this in perspective, I think we should keep in mind that at the time that we contracted with partners, the minimum membership function was being held by someone else. And they took that on at a later date. And we had a lot of problems with that, tracking it, making sure that who was covered. So, you know, they inherited a bit of a mess. So I think that in part explains the question that Ron often asks, how did we get to where we are today?
I think Walt's right. If they can do it, they will. If they can't, they'll say we can't.
Exactly.
And then,
Right,
yeah.
But this is what we like.
Yeah, right.
So we'll
Yeah.
go, yeah, Marlene.
Another follow-up to this is our assuming responsibility for getting regular reports on who's not renewing and following up on a regular basis. When Charlie was doing this, Charlie farmed them out every single time. Every issue, we got a list of people we were all supposed to call. And I think we want to continue
Okay.
to have a regular program of following up on our non-renews.
And Will Lessing, who is the one who keeps that at the office, is very, very good. And I'm sure if he understands what we need, he'll do that for us as well. So I think that would work.
Yeah. As our membership grows, however, we've got to be careful about this micromanagement issue because we can't handle a lot of this ourselves. We've got to set up a system that works.
Basically, it would be to give the board's protocols on what they want to happen to the organization that's managing it and get out of the way.
Yes.
Well, typically, in other organizations that I've been in that had a manager like what we have with Partners in Bennett, the initiatives, they would say, we think you need a policy on X, or we think you need a procedure, here's what we're suggesting. And then you either accept it or you don't, but they're paid to manage and they keep things on track. And what Charlie has said is that Bennett has been expecting Ruth to be managing and telling him what to do. So things have been sort of not occurring because he was waiting to be told what to do, whereas the usual thing would be in a very deferential way to come forward with a
So I
proposal.
guess we need standard rule procedure to give to Bennett so he knows what we don't.
Yeah.
What Jack just described was this phrase. I thought you understood what I think I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets caught up in the middle of that lack of clarity, who's responsible for what. The board ought to tell Partners what it wants done from a provider perspective. And the provider just goes ahead and does that. We don't have to do that. And all I'm saying is, can we enhance that and save us from the deathly task of
Okay,
micromanaging?
I need you
All right.
to listen to three things that deal with the motion. Number one, I've communicated with Partners everything that is before you in my report. I have cleared with Bennett and Will. These are questions they asked. When do we drop people? And I've said, okay.
We're gonna do it.
Well, no,
When we're gonna
let
do
me
it.
finish.
Yep.
Okay, then, I said, can we have, after two letters, can we then send a final letter, and Will and I worked out this draft? Okay, that came from Partners. That's not micromanaging, that's collaboration.
That's what it should be.
And so that's there. Now, the only thing that is different is what Marlene asked him to do in the first place, and put, this is your final issue, please renew. That's the only thing that's different. It could be micromanaging if you want to call it that, but I think they will see that in the context of responding to their desire to know, when do we take people off the damn roll?
Okay.
And we beat it to death, so let's move on.
Thank you. I know that the minutes have been thank you very much.
Yeah, you're right.
The minutes have been circulated, and changes, if any, have been incorporated. And Dan, is there any?
Yes, we have two sets of minutes to approve because our last telephone meeting was a one agenda item only meeting. We didn't go through the regular protocol of approving minutes. So there were two sets of minutes to be approved from our last two telephone conference meetings. Both minutes have followed the same procedure. You all received a draft that had been approved by Ruth before they went to you. I collected your reactions. I circulated a second time your reactions in red. I have received in neither case any dissent from the changes or any further reactions.
Yeah, I remember reading the first one, and I didn't have any sort of substantive things to say about it, so I think they were fine.
Right. So in other words, my assumption is that the second circulation of each set is ready to be approved.
Exactly. And so, do we,
And I will move that we approve both of them.
A second.
thank you. And do you have those dates just for fun? I'm afraid I was gonna ask that.
Ruth and I just went over this, and I guess both of us forget the dates, but they are, if you'll trust me, I'll put the dates in if you'll trust me that
Yes, yeah.
I'll look at my calendar and say,
October 8th is one.
right,
Yeah.
I'll put the correct dates.
Thank you. And we appreciate all that our secretary does. He's a very excellent secretary.
Thank you.
We're richly blessed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, for the treasurer's report, Joe Walton, would you?
Okay, very, very briefly, in year 2010, we had a minus $500 in our operations, net loss of $500. In 2011, NaCCRA made the commitment to go to the next level. And since then, we've gone through every year, 2011, 2012, and our forecast for 2013 is to end up with a net gain for operations. That is deceiving in a way because we get there because of significant donations coming in from one source. The other issue is that when a member joins for a lifetime, pays $150, we have a future obligation, but we accept that income in the year in which it's paid and count it fully towards that year. I sent the last report out on October 18th in the usual format, and I've been reminding readers for several years that it can be a bit deceiving because we're very dependent upon these donations, and more recently we've been highlighting the fact that on lifetime dues we're counting it in the year in which it's received. This was discussed in our October 8th teleconference, and Ron has suggested that we need to do a lot better job of improving transparency in our reporting. You could read those past reports, but it really didn't. You had to be paying attention to know. And Ron brings some experience in running with nonprofits, and Dan brings that experience to the table. And the subcommittee has come up with some recommendations that are going to be discussed tomorrow. We're not going to get into all of that tonight, but the recommendations recommended some new accounting methods to bring more transparency. And then we looked at the revenue side, we looked at the expense side, things that we could do there to strengthen our financial position. We took a look at the pilot membership program and built that into the budget, and that's scheduled to be kicked off in January. And in our recommendation, we also talked about a broader picture of collaboration with other sources to grow our business. The CCRC industry consists of 1,700 providers and 800,000 residents, and it's growing faster. It's growing faster than our enrollment, which is very modest. And even with the pilot program, we're not going to catch up quickly. It'll be a long time before we have the resource. So the committee has advanced some recommendations, and we're going to be discussing those later. Won't get into them tonight, but there's where we're at.
Yeah, we had thought at one point maybe we could do it tonight, but the time is...
No, I think there's a lot of things that deserves some discussion. And I think we couldn't really serve our interest in trying to rush through it tonight.
Okay. So we're going to have to establish a meeting time tomorrow after all is said and done, so it'll probably be in the early evening.
Yeah, right.
So nobody has a date or anything, do they, tomorrow night?
Well, we were asked in the minutes to reserve some time Sunday evening. It's just a matter of...
We decided as a group to reserve tomorrow.
So, and we all have to do is figure out, can we meet here again? And they're just going to, well, we'll see how can we do this? Can we do this here in this building, right here?
Right, I hope so.
I hope so.
Yeah, it deserves a lot of attention. Again, the reports I've given in the past, they could be read as, hey, we're in pretty good shape. But in reality, we're spending money today that, that should be saved for future obligations. And the other issue is that we have a substantial restricted donation. And, we can't count all of that as revenue in the year received.
So,
Yeah.
do you think you can implore that guy?
Do my come to Jesus meeting
Yes,
with him again?
yeah, for your.
I'll try.
You'll give us a dispensation for working on Sunday?
Well, listen, I'm more worried about getting the room than I am the dispensation.
I gotta tell you though, that the budget committee has worked very, very hard, and the budget committee consists of Joe, it's all the officers, Joe, Dan, Ruth,
Ron, and me.
Ron,
Yeah.
and it's been very diligent with Bennett with an assistant,
Yeah.
and it has been really, we have forthing and backing, and that we've come up, I think, with a good package.
Yeah, yeah.
But tomorrow evening, we'll try, I know that the meeting goes on tomorrow till, what time is the last session?
3:30 is the session.
3:30 to, and then
5.
5:30, I think, is the last session is over. So we'll try to grab a bite to eat at Subway's closed tomorrow. Anyway, we'll figure it out, and but the board will be meeting tomorrow evening.
Can we establish now
Yes.
what time we want to meet
Yes,
here
yes.
tomorrow?
What's good for,
Session's over at 5.
it's,
Education session's over at 5.
okay, so the first session is what, Ron? What's your session? When is that over, Ron, y'all? That's from,
5.
Is that the first one, you mean in the morning or
no,
the
tomorrow afternoon.
5.
3:30 to 5?
And that's, so, we didn't get us back here at 5, a little after that?
Oh, Lord, no, we gotta have a break, because after.
Oh, yeah.
How about 7 o'clock?
All right, 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Here,
Yeah, that'll give everybody a chance to
all right.
do what they want after the,
And the budget committee has really worked diligently. I mean, it's been really something to watch and to be a part of. So that will be, I think we can do a very productive meeting at 7 tomorrow evening here, unless you hear from me. Well, you have a minute to talk about your,
Yeah, I'll try to keep it down to less, at least 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes. Financial Soundness Committee did not do a lot this last summer, in part due to the fact that the chairman was preoccupied with the tax laws in North Carolina. We were fighting a new Republican legislature and governor who wanted to change all the tax laws in the state of North Carolina. And we had a brilliant speech by the North Carolina leading age representative at our meeting last week on this, and the success we had in fighting that effort, working together with leading age. Really worked well, tremendous effort. But in any case, over the summer, I've got reports from several of you about CCRCs that are going bankrupt or have in trouble in other different ways. Made a list of about 12, which are in my report. There is some controversy about it. One of them, Erickson Communities, is actually a top-level owner rather than, and manager rather than a CCRC that's being sued and is in difficulty. I said they were in Maryland. It turns out they are in Maryland. Their headquarters is in Maryland, but they don't own any CCRCs in Maryland. So I got objections about that. However, they are one of them, but they are not a CCRC. They are a CCR manager. Another one that I left out was SunWest. SunWest has several hundred facilities. They're been in bankruptcy for some time, selling parts of them in lots of about 100 at a time. The reason I left them out is because I understood they were all assisted living facilities and not CCRCs. I may have been in error on that, I'm not sure. But I did leave them off the list for that reason. But the list is in my report, which you will receive. The last thing I want to mention is not really in the report. We made a conscious decision that we were not going to push the model laws very hard over the summer because of the fact that we felt the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, which is where it ought to go, was preoccupied with the Affordable Care Act, the Obama Care Act. And we would be caught up in a lot of rigmarole if we tried to get to them. Since that time, both Jack and I have been contacting a few people, and we now have, both Jack and I have found contacts that we think may be useful in getting those laws before the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. And so we'll be pursuing those. And that's my report.
Okay, and we will get that in the Dan's going to send to everybody, so appreciate that. Appreciate all that work you have been doing. Ron, you want to add anything to any?
No.
What we did also, and I know that we've been getting this back and forth, but we had talked with we had been talking with Larry Minix and Steve Magg about the possibility of some kind of a relationship between NaCCRA and Leading Age. And in August, we met with Larry and Steve in Washington, D.C. and had a very interesting, productive meeting. And then as a result of that, we came up with a proposed memorandum of understanding that Jack, I think, originally proposed, and it has been tweaked and it has been modified, and we sent the package that Walt had finally finalized for us that we thought was a very good package. And by gosh, they sent back another one that's very much back in the olden days, and it's an affiliation agreement between Leading Age and National Continuing Care Residents Association. And either of you want to talk to that at all?
Well, I think they reached out to us, they wanted cooperation. I think they'd like grassroots support for their legislative agenda. We approached it very constructively. Now what they're proposing is that we would affiliate with them in a way that's quite similar to what they do with the state organizations. And I wrote an email, there was no response to it, but I'll offer what my thought was from that. And I interpreted the lack of response as a rejection of the idea, but I thought what we should suggest is that the relationship we've been having over recent years has been quite cordial. We're very grateful to them for comping our dues at the meetings and for supporting us in having a booth and that sort of thing. And I would hope that the panel presentations, one of the things they were suggesting as a carrot was that we would be automatically allowed a panel presentation. I was hoping that they were accepting our panel presentations on the merits of the value of the content. And I would hope that we could continue having them accepted on the basis of the merits rather than going off into something that would be both formalistic and more sterile. So I would suggest that in light of the fact that they're clearly backpedaling on what they had suggested, that we just suggest to them that the relationship that we've had has been fine, and why don't we just continue as friends, and we'll support you in things which we're able to support you that are in line with our advocacy program, but we'll each keep our separate.
Right.
Is there a possibility, Jack, that because they're coming as it did, you met with them in September, was it?
In August.
In August, at the end of August, that their plate's been full with the Leading Age, and they just haven't taken the time to be as creative as perhaps we'd like to see.
That is, but we also have a full plate. So we put our plate on hold. And we spent an inordinate amount of time on this. And I want to be convinced I don't want to get in trouble here, let's
I know.
see. I think we need to serve our membership, number one. Our primary thing is to serve our membership, and those are residents across the country, and we have to be committed to that membership. So taking a diversion, the hope is that we can serve our membership by persuading the providers to do some things that would resolve some of the issues that our members are facing. There's no reason why you should be inhibited from living the life you want to live because the chief financial officer of your community, Joe, tells you that if you spend your money to help your ailing son, that it's going to bring you into jeopardy under the continuance provision, under the benevolent fund idea. So I think we need to get back to focusing on our membership and serving our membership and not allow ourselves to be distracted. I think it's wonderful that there's a group within the provider community who are open to residents and would like to work with us, and I hope that that can move forward in the future. And I think the cordial basis on which we've conducted our relations over the last few years has been
really good.
positive, and why don't we just keep going the way it is?
One of the things that they asked or said here was, or they suggested, was we know that they give us comp space down in the booth, and our booth number is indeed 3545. 35, and it's a 10 by 10 booth. They have, because we had a banner that is very difficult to transport, so they made us a banner, and they gave it to us, and it's up when we get there. And she said they'll make it for us. They will put it up. They'll take it down. They'll store it for us for the next year, and at no cost. So that's a real perk for us. But they also suggested that they reserve one education slot for a presentation developed by NaCCRA. So we would have one slot for
and
leading age.
that I find troubling, because we know that in the past there was a presentation by a president of NaCCRA that the panel presentation, which now would go forward, be devoted to NaCCRA's advocacy of gun control.
No, that would not have anything to do with this. Or true.
That was what he proposed
Oh, when was this?
to leading age. That's-
No, but that's absolutely not.
So I think we don't want to have a guaranteed slot.
Well,
A
anyway,
slot should be determined on the merits of its relevance.
but it's a topic mutually agreed upon, and we would not agree on with gun control. I mean,
May I make a
Yes,
counter proposal?
yes, sir.
I understand Jacques' frustration, but I do agree with Joe that in all likelihood, they've been totally preoccupied with preparing for this exposition. And so they threw together
Yeah, I
a
agree.
copy of their proposal with
The original.
with their affiliates
Yeah.
and sent it to us. That's, we've seen that before. We have agreed that that's not acceptable. That situation is not acceptable. I am not prepared to give up and call it quits.
I'm either.
My relationship with Tom Aiken in North Carolina has been just marvelous. He is under the same kind of a restriction that we see in this proposal, which I think Steve probably just put together and sent to us, a copy of, with a couple of word changes in it. Tom Aiken doesn't follow that at all. He gets away with a lot more than what's in that. And I think what I would like to do is go talk to him, give him a copy of the proposal we made to Leading Age, and get his reaction and see what he has to say.
Who's the him? Tom Aiken or Steve Mott?
Tom Aiken. Tom Aiken is Leading Age of North Carolina, president of Leading Age of North Carolina.
Yeah.
And you're aware of the restrictions that Leading Age puts on their state affiliates. He supposedly is under those. And yet he's extremely, he's done a lot for us.
And that's kind of the same way with the Connecticut group because they
Absolutely.
do, so,
I couldn't
yeah.
say more to support you in
Yeah.
that, because I've seen firsthand how well our state association is working with the president of Leading Age in Connecticut.
Yeah, so it is.
Very
yeah.
creative. and,
Yeah, Ron?
you know.
Walton, what is the name of the North Carolina NaCCRA affiliate?
It's the North Carolina Continuing Care Residents Association.
Thank you.
One of the
Madam
striking
President, I
things
can't
about
hold
this
up my hand, but
conversation.
I'd like to
Wait a
make a
minute.
comment if possible.
Charlie wants to say something.
Yes, Charlie, what?
Yeah, I think that was Walt that was speaking.
Yes, it was.
Just after Jack, and I certainly agree with what Walt said. We should not give up. I was quite fond of Walt's memorandum of understanding he put forward. And I know that we in Florida have a tremendously strong working relationship with our Leading Age, and we operate basically in the same manner as that memorandum of understanding. And I also know that North Carolina has a great working relationship with their provider organizations. And that's about the end of it throughout the nation. Those two states are really leading the nation in working with that segment of Leading Age, and if we could keep the door open and get that kind of a relationship nationally, then that would be very desirable, I think. But I also agree with Jack that we got to keep in mind foremost that our mission is to serve our residents.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you. Ron, did you have something?
Well, I couldn't hear Charlie's comments, but the striking thing to me in this conversation over and over again is that when you talk to people in NaCCRA at the state level, they have a different orientation to how they think and feel in their relationship with Leading Age. When you talk to us from a national perspective, we get a little bit concerned. And I agree with Jack's observation that if the only thing they're looking for from us in terms of an equal partner is to support whatever their advocacy or whatever their legislative agenda is, that could put us in a pretty dangerous position. So we're caught in some ways between a rock and a hard place. What goes on at the state level and what goes on in the relationship exchange at the national level feel quite different to us. And somehow we're going to have to figure out how we want to do that. One of the things that I was absolutely pleased with when Walt, I guess Walt and Jack worked on the memorandum of understanding, the one that we submitted,
Walt carried it.
was it just gave us carte blanche. If we didn't agree with something they wanted us to do, we just tell them no. And we would take our own position. Now, if that's the only thing that's holding us back to a constructive relationship with Leading Age, that doesn't scare me at all. However, if you encode the obligation in some way, then I agree. You just don't do it. Because if you encode that obligation to do as they do, it would be harder to walk away. And so we have to figure out what is our negotiating strategy with them. I'm with Walt. My first reaction to it was, I wouldn't reject this proposal out of hand. I would turn right around and give it back to them and say, we need to talk about this, and this is what we don't like about it. But I think we may be premature if we reject it out of hand and say, well, we're just going to go back to the way the relationship was before. We may miss an opportunity. I don't know that we would, but I think we ought to give it a shot.
I agree with that, but I do have one question. In their transmitting to us this affiliation agreement, as they call it, or no, alignment. It's an alignment agreement. That
That was
was,
affiliation agreement, this last one they said.
Yeah, but it doesn't use the word alignment or something?
No.
It's affiliation of the town.
Okay.
It's a relationship and, no.
Well, anyway, in sending it to us, did they say anything about the material that we had submitted to them?
Not a thing. They just said herewith, and they sent this.
Okay, so is there in fact a negotiation taking place?
All right, here's where we need to know that Ron and I had a 2-minute meeting with Larry Minix this afternoon. By accident, walked into each other. Boy, how are you guys? And he said, we're putting together something we want to give you while we're here. So, I mean, there's something going on. I don't know what it is in a 2-minute meeting. You're not gonna, but the two messages were, we got something for you, and we want to move forward. So that I think that we need to just hang loose, see what it is, have another hall meeting that's 5 minutes long and say, what is your response to our MOU, you know?
Yeah, because we met in August, and we didn't hear, and we didn't hear, and we didn't hear, and Steve Mag had said, I'll get back to you after. And so on the 5th of October, I wrote to them and finally sent this draft that you had done to Larry and to Steve and said, you know, let us know. So then it was a long time until the 17th of October that I got this from Stephen. So I think,
Yeah, well, given that, you know, that
I know it's rushing
there's,
time.
there are schedules.
Yeah.
That might not be a long time for that. One of the things that I have observed, and I'll put this out just as a characteristic, is at the state level, the leading age individuals seem to be much more attuned to the individual CCRCs and the people and the residents and what they need and what they want. I don't see that at the national level at all. I think at the national level that they have a completely different perspective, and I suspect their perspective is much more attuned to first the national legislature, the Congress, and second to the teaching and training that goes on at this exposition that we're attending today. Or I should say this week. What kind of training can they provide for the people, you know, that sort of thing. So their focus is far different than it is at the state level. And one of the things I want to talk to Tom Aiken about is the fact that their relationship between the states and the national organization doesn't represent or doesn't recognize that difference in point of view.
I think it may vary from state to state. I'd say
It does.
I'm on the board of Leading Age of California, so I'm intimately involved with the provider organization in California.